What's going on, good people? In today's video here for Clair Obscur Expedition 33, we're going to talk about the new quality of life patch that does fix a lot of things, but in my opinion, more is needed. Also, stay tuned to the end. Gonna go over a few of my recommended quality of life fixes that I would love to see implemented. I know they're working on more things to come in that domain, but stay tuned to the end. Gonna go over some suggestions that I have and a few surprises that could be helpful. So with them on, let's get started. So patch 1.4 is available now and it's live, and it does add a lot of different requested features. For example, right here we got some DSL, XESL enhancements. We got a lot of quality of life improvements that we're going to talk about. Added a few accessibility improvements with Lunar stains. Made some changes to some combat exploits, if you will, and a few miscellaneous things that will be flashing across the screen, right? So you could take a look at that, right? But going back to the quality of life improvements, because that's one of the areas where I do feel the game can make some adjustments. So here, the ability to replay a battle, I think, is a time saver. I can't tell you how many times I lost to a boss, lost to a tough enemy, but had to travel all the way back from a rest point, right? Or I had to do some trickery trying to force a save. More on that in a few, right? Had to do some trickery trying to force a save near the boss, so that in the event that I did perish, hopefully I didn't, but in the event I did perish, I could resume right from that spot, right? So I think that's important right there. Lumina cost displayed. There are a lot of different UI things that I feel could be implemented, but hey, you know, more UI changes the better, so I'm all in favor of that. Auto-playing the dialogue, that was one that I didn't necessarily have such a big issue with, but yeah, sometimes it would be a little tedious. You always have to press A, especially if the conversation was long, so that does make it more fluid, more immersive, if you will. And the separate volume sliders, right? So that's an interesting one right there. I'm not much of an audio manipulating kind of dude, but then some people out there, that's really their job, so more power to you. But I'm all in favor of the accessibility stuff. I know some individuals said that they had problems looking at Lunar stains to see which ones to use at what particular time, so definitely right there, right? So all good stuff, but more is needed. Now, it's not to sound ungrateful, right? Because Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is my game of the year. It's not just my game of the year, it's one of my favorite games of this generation. I would say it's my most favorite game I've played since possibly Baldur's Gate 3. So I would put it in the Cyberpunk Baldur's Gate 3 conversation. I did a tier list a few weeks back, so you could go check that out. But it's one of my favorite games of this generation, one of my favorite games of all time, to be honest with you. It's entered into my top 10, but I think there are a few adjustments that could be made, quality of life improvements that would take it from a 9.5 for me, take it from a 9.5 to a hard 10. First off, minimap. I know a lot of individuals have requested that. Some people say a minimap is not necessarily something that should be implemented because of the way the game functions. I mentioned this in previous videos. You can follow visual cues to get from point A to point B. I will be doing a more in-depth guide on each level, on each environment and stage, so stay tuned for that. But a minimap, right? A minimap could be useful, and then even also on the big world map, being able to put a marker on items and traveling to that without having to always bring up the map to kind of get your bearings, right? Improvements to the map in general, but a minimap, having the minimap included, I think would be a bonus, right? Character loadouts, that's one right there. It's always tedious to go switching, so I take a picture on my phone to kind of get a gauge of the current loadout that I have, because I don't want to forget some things. I like my build the way it is, but then I may have to go to a specific build, so then I gotta move things around, gotta use different. So having a loadout option where you can make certain loadouts available, maybe have 3, you know, that you could pick from, however you'd want to execute that, I think that's a big thing. I think the UI needs a ton of work. I have some issues being able to sometimes see. I gotta move the cursor or move the left trigger around to just make sure what's selected. So sometimes I have a lot of issues being able to actually see what is being highlighted. The UI does seem a little cluttered at times, so that's something there. Having the ability to track what you've done or track like how many things need to be done in a certain area. I know the developers are ex-Ubisoft individuals, so maybe they wouldn't necessarily be feeling having a map full of bunch of icons, and you don't have to do that, right? But maybe just some way when you stand in front of the entrance to the map, or when you inside an area, you could press, Y, you could bring something up and it can show you some type of tracker, some type of tracker. You maybe want to keep things hidden. That's totally a development and design choice, but some type of tracker I feel would be useful. One thing that's big for me, pausing during an enemy turn. Pausing during an enemy turn is a big thing for me, because sometimes life happens. Sometimes you got to go answer the door, you got to go do something, right? But then the enemy's swinging, so you got to dodge, you got to parry, you can't pause, so that's disaster. Here's a little workaround for you though. Here's a workaround. If you're on Xbox console, I'm assuming maybe PlayStation works similar. I don't know about PC, but if you're on Xbox, if you press the Xbox button when it's the enemy's turn, you will pause the game, right? You can pause the game when it's the enemy's turn, so long as you press the Xbox button. That's one way to get around that, right? So that's a little hack right there. I'm assuming if you're on PlayStation, maybe if you press the PlayStation button, it does the same. So once you bring up the Xbox menu, the game will pause on the enemy's turn. You can do that to effectively pause and go handle your business, and then come back, and then all is good, right? So that's the way you could do that. I don't know if you're on PC what'll happen, but let us know in the comments below what the experience is like on PC during the enemy's turn. Maybe there's a mod for that. And the last one, manual save, right? Have to go through all kind of concoctions, have to go change somebody's weapon, go change their outfit or whatever the case may be to force a save. Just add a manual save from the start menu. The functionality is already baked in, so just add that right in there, right? So those are some things that for me, if they had those things right there, it would be a solid 10. I know a lot of these items people have been requested. Some people, especially with the mini-map or having some way to guide you from point A to point B, all that stuff, right? I think could be useful. But let me know in the comments below, what would you like to see? I'll do a more in-depth video talking about some of the things that I would like to see, because there are a lot of different specific things. So stay tuned for that. But what are some of the things you would like to see implemented and improved on for one of the best games of all time, says me, right? So folks, that is pretty much that. Just wanted to go over this video where we talked about Clair Obscur Expedition 33 new QoL patch, which fixes a lot, but more is needed. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. As always, I appreciate the support. And with that there, I guess I will see you guys in the next video.